They were civilians, not soldiers, unarmed civilians, teenagers, young boys. More than 8,000 people were killed only for one reason, for being Muslims.
She was lagi jemuran baju di balkon, lalu dari gunung dekat ada sniper.
Oh, okay.
Langsung tek di jantung ya. So she just said, "Mother," and she passed away. Just a simple example. For them was nothing to have a pregnant woman. Ibu sedang hamil. Langsung bayi keluar. Itu hal biasa buat mereka. Dan ini masih termasuk hal yang nggak begitu parah. Ada lebih parah dari itu. Semua orang yang terlibat dalam sebuah pembunuhan massal ini, setelah perang, mereka semua bunuh diri.
After the evidence is available of this massacre case, what punishment shall be given to the perpetrator?
Two most important persons at that time, top military and political leader, they were sentenced to life imprisonment for genocide.
Nah, kali ini kita kedatangan tamu langsung dari Bosnia yang akan menjelaskan kejadian di sana. Yang satu sudah fasih bahasa Indonesia karena sudah 16 tahun di Indonesia, yang mungkin sudah menjadi warga lokal ya. Yaitu Mas Adnan Klovo.
Ya, betul.
Assalamualaikum Mas Adnan Klovo. Kemudian satu lagi hadir langsung nih, tamu spesial kita dari Kedutaan Besar Bosnia Herzegovina, His Excellency Bapak Armin Limo.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oke, Assalamualaikum Kako Sitedanas.
Kako Sitedanas. Dobro.
Masyaallah.
Ya.
Mohe ime ye Indra.
Woi.
Ovo so Sabil.
Ovo je Sabil.
Ovo je Sabil.
I'm not Ovo.
Prvo, želim se izviniti što no govorim dobro bosanski jezik.
Ovo je dobro iznenađenje. Velim sad. This is a surprise, yeah?
I'm pleasantly surprised.
No, I'm still learning. First, I want to apologize for not being good at Bosnian language. So, maybe we'll continue this podcast in English and with the help of Mas Adnan, of course.
You still speak better Bosnian than me, Bahasa.
Oh, mashallah. Mashallah.
So humble,
Inshallah. I'm preparing for to visiting your country. Inshallah. So, Sabil, kita mulai pembahasannya.
Ya.
Oke.
Ini merupakan satu yang menarik ya tentunya ya.
Ya.
Kita ada di bulan Juli. Itu
Betul.
Kembali mengingatkan mengenai apa itu kejadian di Bosnia tahun 1995.
Ya.
Seperti tadi yang sudah disampaikan, ada pembantaian 8.000 lebih pria muslim.
Ya, dan masih ongoing.
Masih ongoing.
Masih ongoing karena masih banyak tulang itu kan, masih banyak.
Oh, maksudnya masih ongoing yang belum diketemukan. Oke.
Masih hitungannya dan akan ongoing terus. Ya, itu mungkin yang uniknya itu tak akan selesai ya.
Okay.
So it's always a topic to talk about every year.
Yeah.
As Muslims, we have to remind ourselves every day, not just every day. So it makes it even more beneficial for the ummah. Yeah.
Jadi Sabil pertamanya ini cerita dulu ya. Saya itu kenal dengan Mas Adnan ini sebenarnya. Ya, Bang Adnan ya. Saya kenal dengan Bang Adnan ini mungkin udah 10 tahunan, tapi di Facebook ya.
Virtual.
Iya, di Facebook. Awalnya itu saya melihat berita tentang Bang Adnan ini di majalah, sebuah majalah lokal. Ada warga Bosnia yang menikah dengan orang Indonesia. Itu. Nah, kemudian saya cari tahu Bang Adnan, kemudian ketemu Facebooknya, akhirnya kita temenan.
Masya Allah.
Gitu. Jadi setelah saya posting berita tentang Bosnia itu, pembantaian Bosnia, nah Facebook selalu mengingatkan saya tiap tahun nih.
Iya.
Nah, saya repost sambil selalu saya mention Bang Adnan ini.
Masya Allah.
Itu. Nah, makanya sekarang kepikiran kayaknya perlu kita undang untuk membicarakan apa yang terjadi di Bosnia pada saat itu. So I want to ask you in English, so His Excellency could understand our
Sure.
dialogue.
We can mix, but to respect His Excellency, we might use English. But
Okay, inshallah. So when the massacre occurred, were you there? And how do you describe the tragedy of the massacre of 8,000 Muslims? That's a huge number, right?
Yeah. His Excellency, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I was in Bosnia at that time.
Okay.
Not in Srebrenica area, but of course, sorry, I was in Bosnia and everybody was aware of that terrible crime. As you know, that happened in July 1995. During 1 week, army of Republika Srpska, they killed more than 8,000 men.
Yeah.
Men and actually boys.
Oh.
Many of them were underage, teenagers. So that was really a terrible crime. And now when you think of that, when you ask yourself what was the reason, it is really very, very difficult to find a rational answer to that question.
I'm curious about that too.
Exactly. What made people do such a terrible crime, genocide, actually. The more I think of that, really, the less I know. But it is very, very important to mention that all those people were unarmed. They were civilians. They were not soldiers. So, it was not a battle. So after the battle that some soldiers were captured. But even if it was a battle, even prisoners should have been treated according to Geneva Convention on Warfare, not to be killed, executed without trial, without court procedure, but especially having in mind that they were civilians, not soldiers, unarmed civilians, teenagers, young boys. More than 8,000 people were killed only for one reason, for being Muslims. Actually, that is, I cannot find any rational another explanation than that. That was their only sin, being Muslims, and they were killed more than 8,000 people within 1 week, only for that one particular reason, unfortunately.
Only because they are Muslim?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And not only that, not only they were killed, but later on, dead bodies were dislocated to other locations. So they were trying actually to cover up those crimes. But fortunately, Hague investigators and other responsible persons, they found almost all of those mass graves. So far, around 7,000 people were identified and buried. So about 1,000 are still unaccounted for.
Okay.
So that was first terrible crime, genocide. More than 8,000 people got killed, and later on they were trying to cover up dislocated dead bodies, but they didn't manage, fortunately. So again, about 7,000 were identified so far. So really, when I think of that, the only reason or main reason why those people were killed are because they were Muslims.
Okay.
Oke, ini menarik sekali gitu ya. Ketika disampaikan reasonnya adalah mereka adalah Muslim.
Hanya itu.
Hanya
alasannya
itu ya. Hanya
only
alasannya
because they are Muslim.
Yes,
Only.
gitu ya. Apa sih di benak mereka ini para pelaku genocide? Kenapa mereka membenci Muslim? Apa yang terjadi dengan Muslim di Bosnia sebelum kejadian 1995? Ini menarik sekali.
Iya. Mungkin Bang Adnan bisa bantu jelaskan.
Ya. Ya memang dalam Al-Quran sendiri itu ada salah satu ayat, mereka akan membenci kalian yang di dalam hati mereka justru lebih buruk lagi. Itu mungkin sudah cukup secara dari kitab suci kita. Lalu selain itu mungkin menurut saya alasan utama adalah karena waktu itu dan masih saat ini hanya Islam adalah agama yang masih hidup, mungkin dalam kondisi IGD tapi masih hidup dan masih ada harapan. Sedangkan agama lain ya mungkin kalau kita lihat di Eropa sendiri, misal gereja-gereja dijual, dirent, jadi ini. Nah kalau masjid masih there is fight, the light, the api ya masih menyala. Dan mungkin jawaban kedua, dengan true Islam tidak bisa dimanipulasi. So it's resilient to any sort of manipulation, and to be honest, I don't see everything negative. Tidak semua negatif dari peristiwa ini terjadi di Srebrenica 11 Juli 1995. Adapun hal yang positif untuk mengingatkan kita semua bahwa kita itu hanya bisa percaya kita sendiri. Karena Srebrenica itu at that time was also a safe zone, right? His Excellency?
At that time it was a safe zone, yeah.
It was a safe zone, but guarded by the United Nations.
Dutch battalion.
Dutch
UN,
battalion.
Yes.
And that makes it even, more painful for us because it was a safe zone guarded by international, community, and the whole world was watching. Tambah lagi, seperti saya sebelum podcast ini mulai bilang, setelah Perang Dunia II dan trials di Berlin against the Nazi, waktu itu seluruh Eropa janji tak akan ulang lagi di Eropa genocide yang terjadi, case close yang terjadi sama orang Yehuda kan di Auschwitz misalnya. Mereka semua waktu itu janji tak akan ulang lagi dan sepertinya ulang lagi. Jadi ini mungkin pesan dari jenazah ini adalah kita sebagai Muslim we have to stand on our own, percaya diri dan tidak tergantung orang lain. So we should not ask for help selain Tuhan, selain Allah.
Betul.
So those will be perhaps the short answers to your question. But that's a good question.
Okay. So, did anyone in your family become victims of the massacre?
No.
Because
Because I live in the central part of Bosnia. I don't have any relatives in Srebrenica area, so none of my family got killed, alhamdulillah.
Okay. How about you, Abang Adnan?
Yeah, actually, my family comes from eastern Bosnia, Bosnia Timur. Tetapi kebanyakan mereka dari Gorazde. Gorazde itu salah satu kota juga heroik in Bosnia in terms of resistance. But certainly for us Bosnians, it doesn't matter where they come from. But we had casualties also in Sarajevo.
Okay.
It was under the siege over 1,000 days. So certainly I don't know any Bosnian who didn't have family losses. From relatives, friends, and, because it's a relatively small country, everybody knows everybody, and it was under siege. So casualties were in all families, unfortunately.
How bad was the impact of the massacre tragedy for Bosnia and especially for you, Abang Adnan, and Your Excellency? How bad was the impact of the massacre tragedy?
Well, listen, that is a really big psychological strike, I would say, to everyone. But that is a very interesting question. Maybe Adnan might be better addressed to answer because he's graduated from psychology, so he knows that better than me. But I know from my experience, during war, people simply didn't think of that much because you were forced to survive. People were living from day to day.
Okay.
Literally, they didn't think of yesterday. They have to think about today and tomorrow to stay alive.
Okay.
Especially in Sarajevo. Adnan mentioned Sarajevo was under siege for 3 years and a half. That was the longest siege in the history of wars, even longer than Leningrad siege during the Second World War. So people simply didn't have time to think about everyday tragedy and massacres being happened in Bosnia during war, but only after the war, actually. After the war, many people suffered, which is very interesting.
Yes.
They suffered more than during the war.
That's when the effect becomes
Exactly. The effect actually become more obvious. I can tell you one short story. My wife, well, at that time I didn't know her. During war, she was a nurse.
Okay.
And we live in one part of Sarajevo, which is about 7-8 kilometers far from main clinic in Sarajevo, which was main war clinic.
Okay.
So she was walking on foot from her house to hospital under grenade, under sniper shell for 3 years and a half. One shift was 3-4 days. She was in hospital, then went back home again on foot, and 3 years and a half like that. So she simply, not only her, everybody.
That's very not easy.
Didn't think that much about everyday atrocities and problems in Bosnia. What happened after the war? Actually, many people simply like under big pressure, that steam cooker when it explodes. Unfortunately, many people were broken after the war. So we went to Saudi Arabia in 1998. That was my first mission as a diplomat. And we went to Bahrain from Saudi Arabia. We went to Bahrain, we went to cinema. And we watched the movie Saving Private Ryan by Steven Spielberg. I don't know if you watched that movie. It's a very good movie. And first 25-30 minutes, it's about landing of Normandy. Of Allied forces.
Battle of Normandy.
Exactly. And first 25-30 minutes of that movie, that is something the most realistic I've ever seen. It looked like a documentary movie, not like a featured movie, because Spielberg really made it in a genius way. So we were in the cinema. It was a sound system, and we were watching that movie first 25 minutes with all those bullets, as if you were there.
It's real.
So real. And my wife was literally crying 25 minutes on my shoulder, because that reminds her of war. They brought back those memories. Simply she was broken. She exploded. She remembered what was going on. But in war, again, she didn't have time to think that much about that. So only after war, many people simply were broken. So that back to your question, how did it affect all of us? It affected all of us during war, but I would say, again, Adnan is expert on that, even after that, it was actually more difficult and more complicated for many people. That is, in medicine, that is termed post-war syndrome or
PTSD.
Exactly. So that is really definitely very difficult during war, but in my humble opinion, maybe even worse after the war.
Okay. So the effect is after the war, the hardest effect.
Both. But in my opinion, in many cases, even more difficult after the war.
Okay. Gimana, Bang Adnan? Any stories, personal stories maybe?
Yeah, of course, as I said, di keluarga saya pun sendiri, waktu perang, cousin saya meninggal. Dia umur 19 tahun, cantik, tinggi, rambutnya gondrong, 19 tahun. She was lagi jemuran baju di balkon. Lalu dari gunung dekat ada sniper. Langsung tek di jantung ya. So she just said, Michael, mother, and she passed away. And her mother, which is my auntie, after that happened, she never spoke a word after that. So she turned gray, uban, jadi langsung jadi putih, walaupun waktu itu umur baru 40 ya. Dan hingga kini dia masih hidup, udah umur 70 sekian, masih tidak pernah senyum lagi. Segitu
traumanya ya.
Segitu traumanya. Nah, balik lagi, kenapa mereka melakukan itu ya? Sebenarnya itu kan namanya psychology of torture ya. Kadang-kadang those psychopaths, you could call them psychopaths, they enjoy torturing people short term and long term, and that's kind of their pleasure.
I still remember the name. Can I mention the name?
Yeah, sure.
His name is Ratko Mladic, right?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah. There were many, but it's a collective responsibility.
Yeah, I know.
To make things even worse, what the whole world sees as monsters and atrocities, they raise them up as heroes, right? That's the irony in the whole story. But back to the question, why would anybody do such a thing, kill more than 8,000 innocent men and boys, basically 14, 15, 16, 17 years old? Because they didn't want just to, wipe out the entire nation or that region of Europe, but also they want these people to continue living. It's like contamination, you know, like you can never have a normal life and you will suffer your entire life, you know. I don't think it's suitable to tell you the real stories because it's more than a horror stories. What kind of atrocities they were doing, right? But just a simple example, for them was nothing to have a pregnant woman, ibu sedang hamil, diinjak, langsung bayi keluar. Itu hal biasa buat mereka. Dan ini masih termasuk hal yang nggak begitu parah, ada lebih parah dari itu levelnya. Yang saya mungkin tidak mau cerita di sini karena ini kan audience juga yang underage. Tapi ini mungkin cukup untuk bayangin. Human evil tidak ada batas. There's no limits to evil.
Betul.
And tetapi ada hal baik. Semua orang yang terlibat dalam sebuah pembunuhan massal ini setelah perang mereka semua bunuh diri. Ya, itu kan nggak dimasuk ke koran resmi. Karena ya secara mental, psychological, you can't sleep. I mean, your consciousness. You can't sleep with those souls calling for justice.
Seperti ini ya, dihantui kekejaman yang mereka lakukan.
Exactly. So a lot of these, the Quran teaches us that we can revenge. Mata untuk mata, eye for eyes, ear for ear. But it's better to forgive. But you have the right. So many of those who were, responsible for the genocide, they committed suicide. And they're still doing it, you know. So, and there is divine justice, certainly, even in this world and in the afterlife, and everything that they did will catch them up. But it's also, sad to say, Muslims at the time were also a bit deviated from Islam due to the communism era, with Arabic language in the 19th, 20th century. There was so people were. They went straight from religion, you know, and so it's not all negative in my opinion. But in terms of traumas, those traumas are still present nowadays, and you can see them everywhere. But on the other side, there's still the beauty and life is still, ongoing there, even after. What we have to keep in mind: this is the 11th genocide in Bosnia. This is not. So after the Ottoman retirement, and the fall and retreat, so a lot of other genocides, not as huge, as famous as the one in Srebrenica, but there were other massacres that happened also during the war and earlier in the history. So this is not something, that, but to be honest, as a Bosnian, as a Muslim, what surprises me is sebuah hadis, you shouldn't be bitten by the same snake from the same hole twice. And that's what happened, and it keeps me wondering. It requires perhaps a deeper psychological, discussion to find. I mustn't find the answers. But again, I always say, ini tidak hanya terjadi di Bosnia. Ini terjadi untuk semua umat Islam.
Betul.
Pelajaran. Itu mungkin conclusionnya.
Dan ini juga mungkin bisa ditanyakan ke Pak Dubes gitu ya, bagaimana support dari negara-negara lain, terutama negara Islam terhadap Bosnia itu sendiri.
Saya terjemah dari Indo ke Bosnia.
Silakan.
Prevešću se indonezijsko. Pitaju za vrijeme rata i poslije rata koje zemlje i kako su pomogle Bosni tokom rata i da je predavera. So how did other countries help? Muslim countries in particular.
Some countries helping us with money. Some countries were sending weapons. Some countries were receiving our refugees and wounded people. So there are different ways. But you know that military embargo was imposed on Bosnia, which is completely unjust. Because all the weapons at that time of former Yugoslav army that belonged to the whole country, former Yugoslavia, they switched to one side. So we, Bosnian army, had almost nothing. So actually we were forced to smuggle weapons buying in black market, literally, all over the world, and smuggle it into Bosnia because of that unjust military embargo.
Okay.
So we were really in a very, very difficult position now when you rewind what was going on in the beginning of the war, what we had on one side and what the other side had. It is really impossible to find precedent in the history of wars in such a disbalance of power that we survived and we defended ourselves. So many countries such as Iran, let's say, they were sending us weapons. They helped us very much. Some other countries like Saudi Arabia, other countries were giving us finance support. So we are really grateful for that.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story from the who is a former Bosnian president. His name is Bakir Izetbegovic. I met him in Istiklal Mosque in 2006. So I had a conversation with him. And well, he's the son of we call the father of our nation, Ali Izetbegovic. And he told me a story from 1994, I believe, during the war. So there was a delegation going to Saudi Arabia to ask for help. And I think it was Jummah. It was some event. So they were in Riyadh, I believe. And the Imam just gave an announcement. Well, we have a Sergia, we call it Sergia, so help for Bosnian Muslims.
Can you a bit closer?
Yeah, for Bosnian Muslims. And he said to me, literally, the women there will take in their gold, bracelets from their arms. So like a full mountain of gold and jewelries and money within an hour.
Within an hour.
Yeah. So help came from all over the world. But the problem was, as His Excellency mentioned, the embargo was not just on weapons, one was everything. It is questionable how much percentage of those help reached actually. And I say the same now happening in Palestine that we witness every day. Help is good, but if you can't make sure that it actually reaches those in need, well, you get the reward for your intentions, but the people itself might not feel such a difference, you know. So, and as we mentioned, there's an interesting story where Indonesian delegates also helped Bosnia during the embargo, right? That's for another perhaps podcast as well.
So, Sabil, jadi setelah mendengar penjelasannya itu menegangkan ya. Kalau saya melihatnya tuh ini menimbulkan trauma setelahnya. Betul. Apalagi cerita Bapak Dubes tadi, his wife long walk dari rumah from her house to clinic.
Berapa kilometer?
Ya, harus melewati Sniper Valley ya. Betul. There is a place called Sniper Valley that time, right?
Yes.
Nah, jadi ada lembah bukit itu isinya sniper semua. Itu.
Ini memang snipernya juga tadi yang seperti disampaikan oleh abang kita juga gitu ya. Ini memang nggak main-main, nggak kaleng-kaleng gitu ya. Semuanya udah standby untuk menghancurkan siapapun yang dianggap sebagai musuh.
Nah, saya sebagai dosen dan guru sering sama siswa saya ditanya, Mister, gimana perang di Bosnia? Bagaimana itu bisa jelasin? Saya bilang, kata itu tidak mencukupi. Tapi coba gini aja membayang. Just imagine, you have to live tanpa wifi, listrik dan air. Wah, sulit, difficult, Mister, sulit. Just imagine. So, we have to remember the rough winters in Bosnia. Bisa minus 20, minus 30, salju 2 meter. Dan aku ingat ibu saya almarhum, saya waktu itu masih 7 tahun, 92. Bapak saya di DIINJ, salah satu heroic gunung, one of the first battles in 1992. My father was injured. He's a war veteran. So my mother was left with 3 little children in a house without food, without anything. So you ask yourself logically, how could you warm up a house without electricity? It's still cold. So she would go 3 o'clock in the morning to the nearest mountain with an axe. She would chop down the tree alone. She would tie it up with a tali, terus dibawa sampai rumah. 20 kilometer. Dari jam 3 pagi sampai matahari tertib. Kenapa? Karena ada sniper. Kan kalau malam nggak dilihat.
Ya Allah.
So, how can I pay my mother what she did for me? I cannot.
Mashallah.
Even if I carry her to Mecca, I couldn't pay.
Mashallah,
I couldn't.
mashallah.
Yeah, and believe now, when you ask anybody, let's walk, malas, lazy, you know. And when you compare the differences of, you know, actions. But also another story what His Excellency mentioned, it is unheard in history. So you can see all this genocide, the whole war was a master plan. This didn't just happen, you know.
Yeah.
But you had like two sides, the Croats and the Serbs, a fully armed army. In terms of number of manpower, equipment, they were way more superior. And their experts thought, okay, in 2 weeks this will be finished. We clean it up. And then lasted for 4 years. And if they didn't stop us, we would actually even extend our territory. So this is it's a miracle. It's a miracle that should be same like the Battle of Badr, where 300 Muslims defeated 3,000.
Yeah.
So I see the similarities between that story and what happened in Bosnia, and that's enough of a reason to visit that country. Yeah, actually, Angelina Jolie used to shoot a movie there.
Yeah.
I would recommend everybody to watch, called In the Land of Blood and Honey. Ya, di negara yang darah dan madu. Then also Richard Gere shooted a movie there called The Hunting Party as well. So if you want to know more for the audience, what what's the war was about, it's actually good portrait in those two movies. Of course, a bit controversial, like the topic itself. But perhaps for those who wanna, do the research by themselves, I would, warmly recommend those renowned actors and actresses. Right? Yeah.
So, in a tragedy, sometimes there are people who are traumatized by the incident, right? What is the situation with Muslims now in Srebrenica, and are they still traumatized by this tragedy?
Yes, they are, and situation is still pretty difficult for them. But the biggest problem is most of those people actually have never returned to Srebrenica because they were expelled.
Yeah.
After safe zone of Srebrenica was conquered by Army of Republika Srpska, and most of them went to neighboring cities in Bosnia, but also many of them went abroad. And they started their life in foreign countries.
Oh, they started new life there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and their kids started to go to school in those countries. So many, actually, I would say even majority of them actually have never returned to Srebrenica. Only small number now is back. And their life, of course, is difficult. But I have to be quite honest with you, not only their life, everybody's life in Srebrenica is pretty difficult because people... economy simply was not recovered in that area. So people don't have jobs, don't make money. So for everyone is, I would say, equally bad, not only for Muslims, but especially for Muslims, having in mind what they have been through during war. But again, most of those people actually have never returned to Srebrenica, and unfortunately, I'm not very optimistic they will ever come back. I can understand that. After going through what they experienced, so all members of family got killed, and now you have to go back to that place and maybe to see some people responsible for that still living freely in that area. So how can you do that? So I understand that from psychological point of view.
It's going to bring back the memories.
Exactly, especially people who went abroad to Norway, to Sweden, to Germany. They established their life over there. Kids started to go to school. So frankly, you cannot expect from those people to come back to Srebrenica. So it is very, very difficult. That is generally a very difficult issue because I think we lost almost 1 million people that way. Our population is very small. According to last census, 3.5 million. Before war, it was a little bit more than 4 million and a half. But it was more than 1 million refugees during war, either internally displaced or externally. So that is especially in last couple of years, we have a big problem, so-called brain drain. Young people and families are leaving Bosnia looking for a better job abroad. So when you combine all of this, we lost, I would say, more than 1 million people. Not literally, but they are abroad, and many of them, I'm afraid, I wish I was wrong, but many of them will never come back. So that is big issue, not only in Bosnia, in neighboring countries, in Serbia, Croatia, Montenegro, everybody's going either to Ireland, to Germany, to Italy, looking for a better job. I understand that part. But people who left Srebrenica and other countries during war, they went abroad. I'm not very optimistic they will ever come back. So back to your question, for everybody's situation now is difficult in not only in Srebrenica, the whole Bosnia, but especially in Srebrenica and especially in Muslim having in mind what they have been through.
Jadi gitu ya Sabil ya. Dari Pak Dubes tadi sudah menjelaskan bahwa mereka ini banyak yang pergi ke kota-kota tetangga ya. Betul. Kota-kota tetangga dekat, mereka memulai hidup barunya, bahkan ada yang nggak mau untuk kembali lagi.
Karena ingatannya itu masih melekat.
Karena balik ke trauma tadi. Ketika kita mengalami trauma di salah satu tempat, salah satu solusinya adalah pindah. Betul. Biar nggak ada trigger. Dan memang saya berharap Mas Indra dan ada kesempatan ke Bosnia. Insya Allah ada memorial Srebrenica. Kalian pun kalau datang ke sana akan rasa energinya. The energy ada everywhere. Itu dengan kata susah. Itu harus experience. Dan memang sebenarnya perang itu masih ongoing, bisa dibilang. Karena mereka aja di sana tidak rasa aman.
Sampai saat
ini. Bukan masalah ada perang, tapi gimana ya? Kalau lu ada tetangga yang benci, gimana mau hidup bersama? Mungkin rumah bisa mewah, tapi justru kita pilih rumah, kita juga lihat tetangganya kan.
Betul.
Jadi it's difficult.
Mungkin ya sebenarnya kejadian ini atau kejadian sebelumnya tidak tepat dikatakan perang ya. Memang benar-benar genocide.
Betul.
Artinya ketika perang dua kubu berkonflik gitu kan. Tapi ini kan kita diserang, ibarat seperti Bosnia diserang gitu.
Dan satu adalah civilian, warga sipil, satu lagi tentara.
Ya, yang mereka ya kita merasakan ya bagaimana mereka bertahan hidup, how to survive gitu. Ini satu yang memang energinya dirasa sampai saat ini juga gitu.
Iya, karena in the international law of combat of Geneva Conventions, you're not allowed to kill children, civilians, elderly, women, right? And they can't even be counted as casualties. You know, you can't just drop a bomb because there's one soldier hiding and there are like 100 civilians there. You just don't do such a thing, you know. And at the end of the day, anyone, you can give such orders, right, to do such things on innocent civilians, unarmed civilians. How would you, as a human, you don't need to be a psychologist, just be a human. How would you define such a mind, such a person? Well, simply put, it's a monster. It's a monster which the hearts are harder than stones, you know. And there is no discussion. You have to prepare yourself, right? You have to be the warrior in peace. And that's the message I'm also sending to Indonesians. Your enemy will only respect you how strong you are. You know, it's a strength rules the world, not democracy. And that's what we always have to keep in mind.
Your Excellency, you mentioned earlier about they killed more than 8,000 men and boys. Why specifically boys? Do you any information why they specifically?
They separated male from female population when they conquered Srebrenica, and they simply killed all men and boys. So they didn't make any difference between adult or minors. They killed all of them. So without any difference. So why man, why boy? I told you in the beginning. Simply, they were Muslims. That was the only reason.
That's the only reason.
So it was not important for them
Okay.
if somebody is 25, 55, or 16 years old, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe just to add to the question, simply they know who wins war are the men, the soldiers.
Okay.
Women and children, are not significant when it comes winning any war. And they joined watching the women and children, suffering. It's their pleasure. It's simply like that. I remember one story from one book that I read about the genocide. There were some heroic acts as well. Well, in wars, one of the common crimes that happen is, sexual abuse. It's, so women are raped simultaneously with many different unimaginable ways, groupies, you can name it. But I remember one heroic story which I always like to tell. It's a true story. Of course, we'll not mention the names. The young lady died in a heroic attack. So I believe she was 17. And her mother was a good mother. So the mother said, I'm going to go look for food. Okay. If the Serbs come, kalau orang Serbia datang musuh, kamu kunci pintu. Kalau mereka ketok, mereka akan dengan kaki akan hancurin.
Yeah.
Nah, dia kasih satu bom ke dia.
Okay.
Satu bom. Nah, dia bilang kalau mereka datang, itu sama kayak di movie Taken ya. Kalau mereka datang, kamu tahu mereka akan lakukan apa sama kamu. Kamu masih perawan, masih virgin. Kamu tahu, itu pasti. And this is what you have to do. When they come, naik kelompok 5-7 orang, ambil kamu akan meledak bom itu dan membunuh mereka. And that's what she did.
Okay.
That's what she did. So, nah bayangin saya juga punya putri. Bayangin, I have to say to my daughter, kalau musuh datang, lo harus lakuin itu. Gimana beratnya?
Betul.
Lo gak bisa dibayangin kalau nggak dirasain sendiri. Jadi, unfortunately, the history of Bosnia, sejarah Bosnia adalah sejarah darah korbanan luar biasa. Bukan hanya di perang ini, itu memang dari abad 14 kerajaan Bosnia. Dulu dengan Roman Empire, kita nggak mau jadi Kristen ya, kita masih musyrik bisa dibilang. We were pagans with their own religion. So Bosnian history, it's a bloody reminder that despite all the things, masih Bosnia is still there.
Mashallah.
And that's more than amazing. Simply tell.
Oke, ini kayak obrolan sedih, tegang gitu ya.
Iya, Bill. I've seen the sadness in Bang Adnan eyes.
Yeah, it is bitter, pahit sekali. But balik lagi, this world was created as a punishment for Adam and Eva. Dunia ini memang sebuah hukuman diciptakan, bukan tempat di mana kita akan enjoy. It's an illusion. So you have to live with this message, pesan ini, reminder setiap hari gitu.
Ini sekarang kita ganti ke mungkin segmen bagaimana untuk bisa bouncingnya gitu ya, bangkitnya.
Boleh. Bill, silakan Bill.
Bagaimana Bang Adnan ketika Bosnia dengan tragedinya kemudian harus bangkit lagi, apa sih yang dibangun dan kondisinya sampai sekarang ini?
Okay, yeah, we'll ask the ambassador. I will translate. So, how did Bosnia rise again from those, tragedies after the war? How did Bosnia develop since 1995 until present day?
Yes, current situation is definitely much more better compared to how it was during the war. But unfortunately, it's not as good as it should be, in my humble opinion. The main reason for that is actually Dayton Peace Accord. Dayton Peace Accord did its purpose of stopping the war. Idea was to stop the war, and that is actually what it was achieved by signing Dayton Peace Accord. And idea was to develop our institution and a society in a better way. But unfortunately, now everybody is saying that Dayton Peace Accord is kind of burden for our progress. Why? Because it created very difficult and very complicated and very expensive internal political and administration system of Bosnia. There are two entities in Bosnia, and one entity is divided within 10 cantons. And every canton has its own government. Entities, they have their own government. Again, there is some ministries on the state level, etc., etc. So it is very difficult, very complicated system, and almost everybody agrees that it should be changed, but there is no consensus how it should be changed. Of course, there are many good and bad news after the war. One of the good news, I'm optimistic, so I'd rather say that glass is half full than half empty. So recently we got candidacy status for EU membership. So our main foreign policy goal is to become member of European Union. Not two former Yugoslav republics are already members of EU, Slovenia and Croatia. And also they are members of NATO, and Montenegro is also a member of NATO, but not of European Union. So main foreign policy goal of Bosnia, Serbia, and Northern Macedonia is to become EU members. So we got EU candidacy status, so I do hope we will start negotiations soon. So I do hope once we become full member of European Union, many of those current problems and issues will not look as difficult as they are now. So I mean, I have to be honest with you, there are many good things that happened after the war, definitely, but also much more things to be done. So there is still a long way ahead of us. So I do hope we're gonna make it eventually.
There's still a little bit homework, right?
Of course. Both economic, politically. I mentioned before that we lost almost 1 million, even more million of population. Still, young people are leaving, but I think we should do our best to make it better.
How's the infrastructure, like buildings, like government buildings?
It was reconstructed after the war. I mean, now if you come to Sarajevo was 3 years. I mentioned 3 years and a half under siege. Thousands of grenades and shells fell on Sarajevo. But now, if you went there, you wouldn't know it was a war, because all the buildings were renovated, infrastructure was now renovated. So it's getting better, definitely.
Alhamdulillah. So, Sabil, ada yang mau ditanyakan lagi?
Ya, kalau dari saya sih menarik sekali gitu ya, perjalanan bangkit, kemudian mengejar semuanya, how to reach, and then now maybe bicara tentang apa sih yang bisa disampaikan ke masyarakat, terutama Indonesia.
But before going into that topic, I'm still curious about one thing. After the evidence is available of this massacre case, what punishment shall be given to the perpetrator?
Well, many of them have already been convicted by International Tribunal for the Crimes in the former Yugoslavia. So more than 50 people have been convicted to more than 700 years of imprisonment. So more than 50 of them got more than 700 years. And of the 20 verdicts of that court, 7 are for genocide.
7 are for genocide.
7 are. So there was special international tribunal for the crimes in former Yugoslavia. So many persons were charged, and more than 50 were convicted to more than 700 years.
700
years in prison, and there were 20 verdicts, and 7 of them are for genocide. What is very important?
Fair enough for them.
Yeah, it is very important, in my opinion, that there is a political leadership and military leadership of Republika Srpska at that time.
Yeah.
So top political leader, president of Republika Srpska, Radovan Karadžić, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. So he was political leader. And you mentioned before Ratko Mladić. He was military leader.
Yeah.
He was military leader, and also he was sentenced to life imprisonment. So two most important persons at that time, top military and political leader, they were sentenced to life imprisonment for genocide. So that is very important. Yeah.
Are they still alive right now?
Yes, they are in prison.
Oh, they're in prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, ini tadi ya yang menarik juga bahwa apa sih yang mau dikabarkan tentang Indonesia? Mungkin ada between relationship Indonesia and Bosnia yang mengakui kedekatan politiknya gitu kan. Bahkan juga awal-awal kemerdekaan Bosnia ini kan Indonesia salah satu yang juga mensupport.
Iya.
Nah ini mungkin yang bisa diceritakan dari Om Indra, bisa ditanyakan juga ke Pak Dubes gitu ya.
Iya. Bang Anan mungkin.
Bang Anan silakan.
Gimana pertanyaannya? Supportnya?
Ya support Indonesia terkait dengan kedekatan politiknya untuk membangun bersama Bosnia.
Ya, ini ada banyak sih cerita. Salah satu nanti mungkin di description podcast bisa dikasih link.
Oke.
Ada sebuah dari Kementerian zaman Soeharto ya.
Iya.
Dia memang secara sampai risking his life membantu mengirim senjata ke Bosnia ya. Sampai dia sendiri masuk Bosnia dalam sebuah truk. Itu nanti mungkin di deskripsi kita bisa ini kasih link. Yang berminat nonton bisa langsung lihat. Tapi ada juga Pak Dubes sebelum Pak Dubes ini Mr. Alilovic pernah kontak saya waktu Corona. Ada keluarga dari Indonesia cari anggota keluarga yang meninggal di jihad di Bosnia, perang di Bosnia. Nah itu cerita sampai hari ini nggak diketemu jasadnya, badannya. Ceritanya tahun 92 itu adalah siswa lagi di Jerman. Mereka lagi ya kuliah di Jerman, dapat beasiswa. Nah, pas perang mulai mereka langsung berangkat ke Bosnia, lalu meninggal dunia di situ, wafat. Jadi ada pun, dan itu tidak diketahui. Ada pasti saya yakin ada beberapa 5-10
warga negara
Indonesia, betul.
Yang berangkat ke sana untuk berjihad.
Ya, betul. Betul. Bahkan ada buku tulisannya jihad di Bosnia. Saya 2008 dulu ambil foto. Itu pun ada yang salah satu jihad di sana yang survive. Tulis sebuah buku tentang perang di Bosnia. Itu banyak orang juga tidak tahu soal itu ya. Jadi ya saya sebagai orang Bosnia udah lama di sini rasa kita tuh lebih dari saudara ya. Jadi makanya saya sendiri tidak merasa ya seperti orang asing di sini. Ya, karena too many connections ya.
Itu berarti dengan Indonesia dengan Jakarta terutama udah menyatu ya.
Tambah lagi kan ada Masjid Istiqlal di Bosnia.
Oh ya.
Itu yang menarik. Jadi ketika di sana pun komunitas, jadi kedutaan besar Indonesia ada sejak 2008. Ya. Dan kurang lebih ada 50 orang Indonesia sekarang tinggal di Bosnia. Komunitas 50 kurang lebih ya. Dan it's growing ya, it's growing. Dan ketika ke sana, definitely you should visit Masjid Istiqlal yang diresmikan oleh Ibu Megawati Soekarno Putri 2001. Tetapi 95 pas perang Pak Soeharto datang di sana ya untuk kunjungi Bosnia.
I've read the story.
Exactly.
He came with Bapak Syafri Samsudin.
Right. So there's a lot of things to cover ya.
Jadi memang Indonesia ini sangat dekat sekali ya.
Sangat peduli, sangat sayang dan sangat ini terlibat. Dan and we know. So I'm feeling like giving back to Indonesia, living here, and inspiring young Indonesians, about the difference in culture and so on.
Nah ini Bang Atan gimana nih melihat orang-orang Indonesia sampai akhirnya memutuskan juga gitu kan menikahi salah satu WNI.
Yeah. Yeah, what we have to understand, I didn't have choice. So I was born in Sarajevo, and I remember in 1992, I was supposed to go to the first grade, so elementary school. Well, and the war started. So my early education was in a shop. So we went to schools just occasionally where there were not grenades. And then I left. My father was injured in 92. And we were escorted with a military plane to Italy, to Ancona base. And then, so since 1994, I was always learning new languages, moving to other countries. So I didn't have a choice to complain.
Yeah.
It was always ending, new beginning. And that never stops until now. After 30 years, I'm still kind of used to that nomad lifestyle, meaning always moving and learning. But I think when we look at kalau kita banding ya, kalau kita compare budaya Indo sama budaya Bosnia, nah Bosnia itu kan unik. We are one of the oldest tribes, if not the oldest tribes in Europe. And there was also a recent study done which says in terms of hygiene, Bosnian Muslims are the cleanest Muslim in the world. Paling bersih. Itu riset itu diambil dari contoh tangan. So bakteri dari tangan dari random, jadi we take a sample randomly, due to our wudu, ablution, due to we know some, let's say some places in Indonesia I would desire they would be a bit cleaner and more organized. So there's a lot of things that we could learn from each other. But on the other side, what I found interesting, and I was just talking to His Excellency in the car, that how easily it's for people here to put a smile and to kind of hide all their problems, inside, and not to share the negative energy. That's something that everybody who comes and visits Indonesia is just amazed, because we lost that ability in Europe due to many reasons. So all I'm saying, the cross-cultural segment of two nations, two cultures meeting and colliding is that we can learn from each other. What you do better than us, we should apply. Or we do better, you should apply. Yes, and just one information, saya ketemu Ibu Amelia Ahmediani, anaknya Jenderal Ahmediani. Itu juga teman akrab saya. Dan sering saya ketemu ibu itu. Dan dia bahkan 2016 hingga 2021 jadi Padubes untuk Bosnia. Dia di Bosnia. Jadi mungkin dia juga jadi salah satu sosok yang mungkin bisa diundang nanti. Itu saran saya. Kenapa? Karena dia juga mengenal Bosnia sangat baik, jatuh cinta sampai tulis buku tentang Bosnia. Diresmikan 2019 dan dia pun fall in love with Bosnia, with the warmth and the welcoming of Bosnian people, which I believe Indonesians are also very welcoming. And definitely there are also MOU signs in UI, Universitas Indonesia, and some other kerjasama. So there's something going on, but it's not mentioned in the news. But there's still work to be done.
Alhamdulillah, Indonesia leaves a good marks to Bosnian.
Certainly.
So I want to ask maybe this last question. Bosnia is very unique because it is a Muslim majority country in the middle of Europe. In fact, it's so unique. There is also an Istiqlal Mosque there. If I'm not mistaken, Istiqlal Mosque, right?
Exactly.
So how the story of that mosque? I mean, you mentioned earlier that it was built in
2001.
Oh, 2001.
It was officially diresmikan 95, but it was rakyat Indonesia untuk rakyat Bosnia.
Okay.
So the funds come from the people. That's the unique thing about.
Mashallah.
So what's the tourist destination are suitable for a Muslim there?
The halal tourism in terms of
I mean, there's a specific place that Muslim can go there, and there's a halal food, or
Yeah, perhaps His Excellency can
Yeah,
tell us.
please.
Of course. Most of actually, in last, let's say 5-7 years, we saw real boost of boom, so to say, of people, especially from Middle East, coming to Bosnia, from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Emirate, Bahrain, some other countries as well.
Yeah.
So from Saudi Arabia, maybe 6-7 years ago, there were maybe a couple of thousands coming. Now there are 20-30,000.
Okay.
So really huge improvement in that regard. This is, I would say, Bosnia is uncovered a gem,
yeah,
uncovered pearl for Arab tourists.
Yeah.
So they keep coming more every year, more and more, especially to Sarajevo. Sarajevo is the first spot they visit, our capital, and from Sarajevo they visit other parts. Our country is very small.
yeah.
Total area is 50,000 square kilometers.
Okay. So kalau Jambi,
Syukurnya.
yeah,
Kurang
Jambi.
lebih.
It is very small. So once tourists reach Sarajevo, within couple of hours by car, they can reach every part of Bosnia. So it's very convenient. So you can visit from Sarajevo. You can visit literally every part you want. Unfortunately, there are not many tourists coming from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Far East. So that is one of the idea that we can improve tourism in that regard, because I know that many Indonesians are going to Umrah, or they're going to Istanbul because they don't need visa for Turkey.
Yeah.
Indonesian people, it's free visa regime between Turkey and Indonesia. So many tourists are coming to Istanbul, let's say, and we might organize short trip from Istanbul to Sarajevo in Bosnia, maybe 3, 4, 7 days, and they can come back to Istanbul and then go back to Indonesia. That would be. I already had meetings with some tourist agencies here, presenting them that idea, so that they find it pretty interesting. So we will see how we can develop that way of cooperation between two countries.
Insya Allah kita kan berangkat ya.
Insya Allah.
Ziarah travel.
I've been to Bosnia actually.
Really, when?
Last night on YouTube.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been on Bosnia from YouTube last night. So I can imagine how beautiful it is.
Cantik ya.
Yeah, with green grass, a lot of field.
Yeah, I would
It's like Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly. I always say to people in Jakarta, why do you live in Jakarta, Do you go out? I say, because untuk hidup itu sebenarnya yang paling penting adalah air dan udara.
Yeah.
Ya, dasar hidup ini, mau sehat, mau lain-lain. Dan Bosnia has a lot of it. More than you need. And then to my students, I always say, imagine because the water is drinkable. We don't buy water. We don't have gap. So you can literally take a shower if you are house. You can drink it while you're taking a shower. Wow. So when you swim in the Sungai, you can swim and drink while you're swimming. That's something nggak bisa dibayangin di Indonesia udah lost It's something lost that we still enjoy. And we are very aggressive when somebody throws trash and when somebody, wants to pollute the rivers. We are very, pride and strict about it because we want to protect the water as well. But I would, if you allow me, I would share 2 little stories perhaps for the audience.
Yeah.
Will be, I give a free statement that actually we know that the First World War, Perang Dunia Pertama, 1914, itu mulai di Sarajevo, Bosnia. Bahkan kalau kunjungi ibu kota, itu ada namanya assassination point, di mana Franz Ferdinand sama istri yang hamil di shoot, right? Di atentat waktu itu. Nah, itu kan jadi trigger Perang Dunia I. Kalau saya pribadi, saya ngelihat Perang Dunia I, Perang Dunia II. Perang Dunia Part 1 yang tidak diselesaikan di first part, Perang Dunia Part 2 in 1939. And what I came with our own statement that actually what happened in 1914 that contributed to the independence of Indonesia in 1945. Kenapa? Karena pas Perang Dunia I, East Dutch Colony yang dulu rule Indonesia, mereka harus tarik dana dan fokus ke perang di Eropa. Nah di situ nasionalis Indonesia, hero-hero pahlawan yang kita lihat di rupiah, mereka lihat sebuah kesempatan untuk berjuang. So actually what happened in Bosnia at that time directly had influence on what happened in Indonesia in 1945. As you see how small this world is. And that's another reason why you should visit. And one little story, because I live in Italy, I also speak Italian and German, some other languages. Keep in mind that Bosnia was part of the Ottoman Empire. It was on the frontier, in Western Europe. Most of the generals come from Bosnia. But it was also part of the Roman Empire in the past, in the early, we were all attacked. And there is a river in northern Bosnia called Una River in Bihać. The story how it got his name is really unique. Bahkan Edin Dzeko, terkenal pemain bola, salah satu putri dia namanya Una. Kenapa? Ceritanya seperti ini. Waktu Roman Empire pertama kali masuk Bosnia 1000 tahun lalu, pas mereka lihat sungai itu, mereka bilang Una, the only one. Karena bahasa Itali 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Una means the only one. The only one. There have been many rivers in Swiss, but when they saw the Una, they said this is the one. The most beautiful river in Europe. So if that's not a reason to visit, you can decide for yourself. And I say that's why we call water adalah emas biru ya. It's the blue gold, and water is everything. And bahkan Allah say He created everything from water, right? Water is. So there's plenty of reason that connects these two countries, and definitely it should be on your bucket list.
Inshallah. Kita akhir tahun ya. Insya Allah akhir tahun.
Ya.
Akhir tahun berapa?
Jangan tunda ya. Sabar.
Masya Allah.
Ya Nabil.
Ini menjadi perbincangan yang seru ya. Kita mengupas dari sisi kelam di Juli 1995 sampai akhirnya menjadi sebuah memori yang tidak terlupakan hingga generasi saat ini, terutama di Bosnia. Dan mungkin ini bisa menjadi juga informasi untuk para anak muda Indonesia yang di tahun itu masih belum mendapatkan informasinya. Ternyata di dunia ini ada juga genocide sebelumnya yang juga dirasakan oleh saudara Muslim, gitu ya.
Ya, jadi apa yang dirasakan di Palestina juga Bosnia juga pernah merasakan ya. Dan tentu punya keinginan yang sama ya, bahwa ingin Palestina merdeka ya dari warga Bosnia sendiri.
Betul. Karena kita identifikasi kalau banyak negara Muslim, mereka harus bayangin apa itu genocide, apa itu perang, apa itu. Kalau kita nggak usah, tidak perlu, kita udah rasain. Generasi saya bahkan kita udah rasain, dan makanya saya bilang Sarajevo itu adalah Jerusalem, European Jerusalem. Dan unfortunately that's 100% true.
Ya, belajar dari Bosnia, harapannya juga saudara-saudara kita di Palestina ketemu dengan kekuatan barunya ya, yang mungkin sekarang mendengarkan. Ini bisa menjadi trigger juga untuk membangun kembali negerinya, insyaallah.
Betul.
Bang Adnan, mungkin ini terakhir dari mungkin kita minta His Excellency Bapak Armin untuk bisa menyampaikan apa yang membuat tertarik warga Indonesia untuk ayo datang ke Bosnia, lihatlah negara kita gitu. Karena beberapa nih ada stigma ya, negara bekas jajahan, bekas perang itu aman atau enggak. Nah itu mungkin
boleh,
Bang Adnan bisa jelaskan
saya pakai bahasa Bosnia biar seru ya.
supaya nanti turis from Indonesia is more come to Bosnia.
Može da u par rečenica kažete zašto bi Indonežani trebali posjetiti Bosnu, jel? Koji su glavni razlogi, zašto bi trebalo biti on the bucket list?
Bosnia is a beautiful country, as I said. There are many different kind of entertainment, so to say, or sightseeing spots to see, or depends what you like. For instance, some people likes skiing.
Okay.
Maybe you didn't know, but Winter Olympic Games
Yeah.
took place in Sarajevo in 1984.
Okay.
So Sarajevo is Olympic city. So literally 1 hour of driving from the downtown of Sarajevo, you reach Olympic Mountains if you like skiing. Number one. Number two, if you like, let's say, spa tourism, rafting.
Okay.
There are many rivers in
Many
Bosnia,
rivers.
and rafting is very popular as well. Then so-called ecotourism. People go to mountains, eating homemade food, walking around, healthy ecotourism. And also there are many lakes. Also we have also coast, but very short. Compared to Croatian coast or compared to especially Indonesian coast, that is not probably very interesting for you because you have many beaches and more places of that kind. But for winter tourism, for spa tourism, rafting, halal tourism, and many historic places to see, Bosnia is literally uncovered pearl to visit and to see, inshallah.
Masya Allah, paket komplit ya di Bosnia kita datangin ini.
Ya, terutama yang misalnya ingin lihat salju pertama kali itu pasti seru. Saya pun kemarin bawa satu kelompok, ya orang pertama kali lihat salju ya, itu ya luar biasa ya. Disentuh ini karena kecil ya. Karena dewasa ya.
Bang Adnan berarti tour guide juga nih.
Ya betul. Betul.
Okay.
Jadi so yeah, as His Excellency says, just the fact that as a Muslim you have halal food everywhere, you can hear the azan, you can pray. It's already a reason for us to visit.
Nice.
And among other, perhaps also a message to Indonesians that you have to take care of your lingkungan, of your environment, cleanness, trash, and everything. I know that's a problem that. It's been here, still is a problem here, and a challenge, I would say. So there's a lot of things, to learn, but also keep in mind that Bosnia has really brought some big names. For example, one we are Slavic people, and Nikola Tesla, which is everybody know Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Even Mate Rimac, the fastest production car. He's from Bosnia, Livno, where those wild horses. Many people didn't know that. So there's a lot of to cover, but I can tell you now, if you go to Bosnia, your mindset will change. Even just for 10 days, in a positive way, ya.
Insyaallah.
Itu janjian.
Pasti.
Suatu saat kita podcast di sana ya.
We should do podcast in Bosnia.
Nah, uniknya Bosnia itu karena cuaca ekstrim, it's extreme weather. So depending on which month you're visiting, it's a totally different country.
Okay, which is the best?
Depending what you want. For example, if you want a snow, I would recommend January.
Not too
February.
cold, not too hot.
Okay.
In the middle.
Ini manja ya. May, June.
Okay.
May, June.
Cuaca meriang ya.
Okay.
Or maybe late September. It's also
Late
nice.
September.
Oke.
There's a mild, there's a 25 degrees.
June.
Cold. So depending what you want to see.
2 bulan lagi kita berangkat.
Inshallah.
Juli, Agustus, September.
So, gimana Bang Adnan? Ada yang mau disampaikan lagi with His Excellency? Is there anything you want to say? Or?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure to
We are the one who say thank you.
Yeah, it's mutual.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. And
we are honored. Yeah.
kami sangat minta maaf atas segala kekurangan dari segi bahasa. We are very sorry for our language.
No
problems. We're not good in English, especially in Bosnian.
You are actually. Your English is very good.
Masya Allah, Alhamdulillah.
Kesini doang, nggak kesini ya.
Not yet. Oke. Sambil udah ada yang mau disampaikan?
Sepertinya cukup ya.
Baik.
Ini sudah banyak menjadikan informasi semuanya. Terima kasih
Ya.
bapak-bapak yang sudah hadir, abang kita.
Ya, Bang
Abang,
Adnan and His Excellency, thank you very much.
Ya.
Jazakumullah khairan katsiran.
Iya.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Baik, bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, telah kita dengarkan tadi podcast dengan
Kenapa jadi bapak-bapak ibu-ibu, Pak?
Ayah. Oke. Baik, teman-teman podcast Thesungkar, tadi kita sudah dengarkan kisah kelamnya di Bosnia sampai banyak tempat wisata di Bosnia. Jadi buat teman-teman yang ada rencana liburan di tahun ini atau di tahun depan, pastikan Bosnia menjadi salah satu tujuan liburan kalian. Sebagaimana kita juga akan di planning nih sepertinya.
Punya tujuan juga
ke
ke sana
Bosnia.
ya?
Harus.
Gitu. Harus ya.
Harus.
Oke. Baik teman-teman, mungkin itu semua dari kita. Semoga apa yang kita bicarakan di podcast ini bisa menjadi menambah wawasan baru dan juga jangan lupakan doa kita untuk saudara-saudara kita di Bosnia dan juga di Palestina tentunya. Kita akhiri dengan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.